I get a lot of questions about the nearly $30 million medical negligence verdict that I was able to receive. So I want to tell the viewers a little bit about that case. So this was a sad situation. It involved a 20-year-old girl who was attending college in Kansas City. She had just started physical therapy school. She was a straight A kid, stud soccer player from Glendale High School, all around really good girl. And so she graduated from college, was starting physical therapy school, and started just having weird issues going on. And she was telling her doctor she was going into Mercy Hospital here in town and telling them that she had this one-handed shake, like a tremor in one hand. And so she kept going to her doctors, and she also had a lot of anxiety and just psychologically, she was getting depressed, and the symptoms just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And she kept telling her doctors about these symptoms. And one of the things that was really critical in this case is that she was using this My Mercy portal, where she was really describing her symptoms in detail. And it was critical in the case because what's written down by a doctor, what's contained in a medical record versus what my client and the patient's actually saying can be drastically different. And they told two very different stories in this case versus what was said versus by my client as we had clear record of it versus uh, what they wrote down. And what ended up happening is she was in physical therapy school and she was trying to get up from class one day, and her her professors, who were physical therapists, know she was using her arms to get up. And, a 20-year-old athletic girl shouldn't have to use arms to get up. You shouldn't have the strength and balance to do that on her own. And they told her, they said, something's seriously wrong. You need to see a neurologist. So she demanded from her doctor that she get in with a neurologist. And tragically, by the time they got in to see the neurologist and get the MRI done, it was essentially too late. She had a very rare disease which allowed copper to build up in her brain to the extent that it damaged her deep and inner brain. And so when they started the treatment to get this copper out of her brain, it was a it she suffered severe brain damage. She ended up being at what we call a locked-in state where she's awake, but she couldn't walk, she couldn't talk, she couldn't communicate for 3 years. And after about 3 years, she made some recovery, but she's still significantly brain damaged and requires pretty much 24-hour care for the rest of her life. And so this was a case that did go all the way to verdict. We went to trial on this case, and prior to trial, the hospital literally didn't offer a penny. They didn't offer any, didn't try to settle it at all. And so we went to trial, we got the verdict, and it ended up being that $29.8 million verdict was the largest medical negligence verdict in the history of Missouri at the time. But even then, we still had to keep fighting because the hospital said, we're not paying, we're appealing. So it got appealed up to the Missouri Supreme Court. We were able to uh, be successful in the court. That's why it's very important we have lawyers that are not just trial lawyers, that can also write, do appellate practice, which we do here at Rah Law. I've handled many appeals, and my mother, who's part of the firm, is a 20-year veteran of the Court of Appeals as well. But we were able to win in the Court of Appeals. The Supreme Court found that some of the tort reform laws were unconstitutional, and we're able to get full recovery for our client so that she can have the medical care she needs for the rest of her life. Like I said, she needs 24-hour care. It's expensive. She was only 20 years old. So while the verdict sounds extremely substantial, when you think about the costs of the medical care that she's going to have to go through, and living a life from being a you know 4.0 student, great athlete, to having pretty significant brain damage. It sounds like a lot, but when you really break it down, it's not as much.